Welcome to the Midlife Leap, a lifestyle talk show for women in midlife. I'm your host, Sunita Johnson, and I am excited to share tips and interviews on topics ranging from business, career, current news, fashion, shopping, health, travel, and so much more. And because I'm known as the Midlife Leap Coach, from time to time, I'll share some of my signature Midlife Leap coaching tips. So come on, ladies, let's reignite and reimagine our midlife Leap journey together. Are you considering a weekend getaway? Well, one of the great secrets about the East Coast is that it offers many beautiful and relaxing weekend getaway options. Now, if you're seeking a getaway that offers a small island, wild ponies, and a beach, well, I got the place for you. Check out Chincoteague, Virginia. I think I'm pronouncing it right because for months I've been pronouncing it incorrectly. But Chincoteague is a town on the island of the same name in Virginia's Eastern Shore region. The island is a little over 37 miles. Now, what's so cool about it is that there's a national wildlife refuge on Chincoteague Island, and there's beaches and wild Chincoteague ponies. Now, we went recently, I think it was in April, so it was actually still kind of cool, and we didn't spot any wild ponies like we planned, but I got to hang out at the beach, so it made the 3-hour drive from Washington, D.C. worth it, just because I got to enjoy the beach. At least see the ocean and feel the energy of the ocean. But we do plan to go back, and if you do go, please plan to go around the wild pony swim if you specifically want to see the wild ponies. That way it's not a hit or miss trip. And that does occur in July, I believe. You can go to the calendar, like you can go to Chincoteague.com to their calendar to look up their events, or even Chincoteague. We wound up on Chincoteague specifically because we were trying to look for the Marriott Hotel and happened to be on that island. So next time we'll probably go to Chincoteague and see, I guess, if we see some wild ponies. But one great thing, like I said, about the beach is that it is undeveloped, at least the side where we went to off of Chincoteague. Meaning there's no boardwalk and there weren't any stores or anything like that there. And not that I'm against that, I'm not opposed to it. I enjoy that as well. But it was kind of refreshing to be at a beach where it's just in its natural element. So that was really cool. The first day, because it was in April, was rather cool. I had on my down jacket, but the second day, I think it was 80 degrees. So I got to get out there with just a t-shirt and actually take off my shoes. But either way, it was so worth it. The food was great. When we were there also, it was down. It wasn't like a peak time for visitors. So it was almost like we had the island to ourselves, although the hotel was apparently full. It was not crowded. So I feel that we got a real sense of the town because of that, compared to when we go back. I'm sure it'll be crowded because we want to make sure we go there during a time so we can catch the ponies swim, and we'll enjoy it either way. But I'm glad that we got I guess you could say, the natural or the natural time of the island. But again, go to Chincoteague.com. I'm not going to try to spell it for you, and check out their calendar of events, and please enjoy. Leanne O'Donoghue is a certified dementia practitioner who has worked in health and human services for over 25 years. In 2016, she began working with the 65 plus population. And while working in adult protective services, Leanne noticed a vast number of reports were filed due to symptoms and behaviors common with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia. Caregivers were overwhelmed and resources were limited. So Leanne was introduced to Still Me's owner, Beverly Moore, and the services that her coaches offered. Leanne got to hear directly from caregivers about all the many benefits that Still Me's coaching provided for both the caregiver and their loved ones with dementia. Now, that is when Leanne knew she wanted to learn as much as she could about this disease and help those affected by it. Leanne's compassion and empathy while teaching effective strategies has helped thousands of caregivers providing care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementias. Welcome, Leanne. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
So this is a very personal topic because, as I discussed briefly, I am a caregiver. I'm a middle-aged, 55-year-old caregiver for my dad who has Alzheimer's. I've been taking care of him full-time for 2 years. I moved him here during the pandemic. So please explain how Still Me assists caregivers and what's your role?
Still Me, I'm a certified dementia practitioner, and what we do at Still Me is we work with caregivers. We help educate them about their loved one's disease. I help them, work through the symptoms that their loved ones are having and teach them ways to respond and to help reduce those symptoms. I also want to make sure that the caregivers I work with have the support and resources that they need. So I often will make referrals to other agencies on their behalf. I also work with families. So we pull families together all over the states. I've even had family members out of the country using, WhatsApp, because a lot of caregivers, they're not all in one place. So it's a great way to bring families together too. So it's not just the caregiver, but also the family.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, the disease is a mystery to a lot of people, clearly, but there's no cure. What is the first step for a caregiver when they come to you? What's the common issue? I don't know if that's a good question or not.
Yeah. So a lot of times they're just even confused about the diagnosis. What is dementia? What is Alzheimer's? What's the difference, right? So just explaining to them, that dementia is symptoms. And then there are types of dementia. Alzheimer's, vascular. So a lot of times it's just basic education, but they're overwhelmed because they're responding to behaviors in a way that sometimes could escalate the situation. And so when they come to us, it's a way to learn how to respond and to help their loved one through the symptoms. I've coached nurse practitioners, I've coached MDs, because a lot of people, they don't really want to know what's going on in the mind so much, like this part of the brain does this or that. What people want to know is, how do I help my loved one live the best life that they can while taking care of me?
They want immediate results because they're already tired.
Exactly. And they're overwhelmed. So I get the caregivers that are just overwhelmed and really just need some guidance in how to reach out for help, where to reach out for help.
Yeah. Like my greatest challenge has been, my dad's always been the nicest person. I've heard that even before it advanced, that the nice people turn meaner and the mean people turn nicer. I don't know if that's accurate, but he's himself, but when he's mean and cranky and complaining, it's a lot. Like, for example, I stopped giving him his medicine pill form like months ago because he was really angry. It was some kind of conspiracy from the government, like just stuff that's off base, basically, from simple, I guess, what would be everyday things. Even sometimes taking a shower, he gets really upset. So I've learned to sort of just disengage, but in the pills, I crush and put in some food. And that way, it's is sweet. So make sure I put it in something sweet.
And those are all common symptoms. So what I found is that a lot of the symptoms are similar. So a lot of the interventions that I've learned over the years work, and so it's kind of, we need to figure out, like, why doesn't he want to take a shower? There's a reason for it. So what we do is we problem solve. Sometimes it's because they're cold a lot and they don't want to get cold. Sometimes they're afraid of slipping and falling. Sometimes it's modesty, and sometimes it's control. They want control, so it's really it's trial and error, really. I give them suggestions, and then they try, and then we come back and this worked, this didn't work, and we try new ones. Okay. Because it's not a one size fits all, but there are a lot of consistencies in the symptoms.
I'm glad you said that it's not a one size fit all, and no. That I guess, because I like, for example, those who have never gone through this or dealt with someone with Alzheimer's, I've had them give suggestions that are like, well, you should be able to do this, or you should be able to do that, or you should be able to ask them. It's like, this is a disease that's not explainable. It's like, it's not that simple.
Yeah. And I hear that from caregivers all the time, people, well, your mom's 80 and, what does she sleep all day? What's the big deal? Because people don't understand that Alzheimer's and dementia is more than just memory. And a lot of people don't know that. And a lot of people, dementia, there are plenty of people with dementia that can still live independently for years. So, it's almost like, I always kind of explain it like the autism spectrum, right? It's not just a child has autism. There's a spectrum, right? It's in how they function. It's kind of like the same thing with dementia.
So you said it's not just memory. What does that mean?
It doesn't just affect their memory depending on what type of dementia they have. It could affect their mood, their personality. It can make it really difficult for them to control their feelings. So you might see 0 to 10, no 5, no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to see 0 to 10. A lot of there's always a reason behind the behavior. There usually is, but it's just trying to figure that out. But I think what coaching does is providing caregivers with this information prior to situations happening, so it doesn't seem so scary. And I always give the example of, if I tell a caregiver, okay, it's common, they may have a hallucination. And if they have a hallucination, this is what you do. But if they didn't know that, right, and their loved one starts seeing animals or people and, they're trying to say, no, you're not seeing that. And it just gets worse and worse and usually ends up in an ER visit.
Yeah.
So I think, having the information ahead of time gives the caregiver confidence on how to respond to that in a way that's going to be acceptable to the person with dementia.
Yeah, actually, it's funny, interesting that you said that, because a friend of mine, I got that tip from her. Her father had, I think it was her grandfather had Alzheimer's, and she said that he used to look out the window and see animals, but all the other relatives would try to correct him. And she said she would just go along with it. Yeah, Grandpa, there's a lot of animals, and play along with them, and it made him happier. It was like, it definitely, his mood was different and attitude was different than with her compared to the other relatives, and then the other relatives caught on. So I got that tip from her, and it does work.
Yeah, they call it therapeutic fiblets. There's actually a term for it, is to go with the fiblet to keep him calm, and keep him feeling good. And so if he's seeing something, regardless of what's going on in his brain, if he's seeing something and people are saying he's not seeing it, that's not going to go over well. Would that go over well with you if you were seeing something and someone's just telling you you're not? Exactly. So that's why he responded better to her, because she validated what he was seeing.
Yeah, and I've had very similar situations, especially when my dad is in the car with me. He's from Alabama, so he sees cows and horses. I just never know if it's going to be a normal day or if it's going to be a, I guess, hallucination day. But I just learned to go with it. If I'm too tired, I find that it's better for me to just say, and just kind of almost, I don't know if it's right to say sort of I'm checked in, but sort of checked out, because it is frustrating. So it's almost better for me not to respond and just let him talk and just say, but not get too deep into it.
Yep. Right. Because getting too deep isn't probably going to go anywhere anyways. Right. Yeah. And so again, he just wants, think of it this way. Your dad is just really confused, right? All day he's confused, and he's just trying to make sense of his environment. So, if he sees things and they're not bothering him, then, you let it go. Because what you want to respond to the emotion behind it, not necessarily what he's seeing.
Yeah.
Is it scaring him? No. If it's scaring him, and, what I always say to people is if they're scared and they're preservating over something and you can't get them to stop, have a distraction ready to go. Like, I have a Charlie horse, my leg, or something that's going to make him just stop thinking about it. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
because the logic and reasoning doesn't work, right?
That's probably healthier than a piece of cake, because that's what I've been doing, a cookie or a cake.
Yep. Yeah, and it's funny you said sweets, because I don't know if you know this with your dad or if you notice it, but even people who never ate sweets become like a sweet obsessed. I don't know if your dad's like that.
Yeah.
But I've seen that over and over again, where people have literally had to lock cabinets.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't go in the kitchen, but I do with his meals. Sometimes he'll eat the sweets first or not eat the meats or whatever. So I have to be really careful about putting the dessert on the table. But that was part of, I believe, why he got sick when he was on his own is he was eating only cookies, those cream-filled cookies. He wasn't eating any other meals, no other food.
Right. The reason why they gravitate towards sweets, though, too, has to do with as we get older, we lose our taste buds, but our sweet taste buds is the strongest. So they definitely gravitate. So it makes sense that he would gravitate towards that. Even, because I know it can frustrate spouses because their taste buds are changing. So something that they like for 25 years, all of a sudden they want no part of it. So, yeah. And like you hit it on the head when you said every day is different. And that's what makes it so challenging. Yeah. And that's why it's so important that caregivers get their breaks and reach out to family, friends, church. It's important that the caregiver gets time for themselves and a break from that.
So do you work with them to I guess, set a village plan as far as like reaching out? Okay. And then like my dad's a vet. I never knew the different benefits that we have. And as a result, I also learned that I haven't taken advantage of it because he gets help from the veteran system. But I know locally governments, there's respite care and different things like that. So do you assist your clients with all of that information as well?
Yeah. So Beverly, the company that I work with, she has contracts with all of the elder agencies throughout Massachusetts. So we're getting our referrals from usually like a family advocate or someone like that. So they're usually they're paying for the cost of the coaching. But what I do is it's usually 3 sessions, and it's really up to the caregiver. But the first session is really for me to get to know them and really kind of assess the level of the disease and where they're at and, what they're struggling with, because everybody's experience is different. I give them tips, then we do a follow-up, and they tell me what worked, what didn't. And then at that point, I develop a care plan, and I break it down for them in ways that, this to communicate, to make things easier, try this. Self-care, try this. How to get them to engage in activities, how to get them, how to create a dementia-friendly environment. So I kind of break it down. It's called the habilitation model. And honestly, there have been studies that show when caregivers work with a coach that the elder stays in the home a minimum to 1 to 2 years longer, which is a long time for some people, right? A lot of times I'm that first person that's validating how hard it is. And caregivers just break down because nobody has done that. So one of the important things I want people to know, or anybody who's watching this, the Alzheimer's Association has a 24/7 helpline. And a lot of people think, well, my father has dementia, or, he doesn't have Alzheimer's. The Alzheimer's Association is for all related dementias, not just Alzheimer's. And that 24/7 helpline is there for anybody. And you call it 2 a.m. You need help through a symptom. You can call for consults. Like, you cannot overuse that phone in that support. So I feel that one of the most important things is I let them know, this is your phone number. There's always going to be someone there to pick up the phone.
That's great information, because I've done the, I guess, the support group for the Alzheimer's here locally, and I don't recall them sharing that. So
that's terrible. That's crazy, because they, I'm working on a grant right now as well with Tufts Health Plan in the Harvard Medical School, and they're looking at how coaching, if it minimizes ER visits and prevents long-term care. Got it. So I've been able to take a lot of trainings with the Alzheimer's Association, because it's in collaboration with them. And I know they do not care if you call 4 to 5 times a day. They don't care. That's great to know. And then the fact that your coaching sessions are just 3, that was a huge stress reliever, I'm sure, for anybody who's listening, because I was doing the support groups. I was probably in 2 or 3, I don't remember, but I wound up just ending all of them because it was too much with work and everything else, but it was overwhelming. It's like, I got the information that I need, and I'll rejoin once if I need more information, but it was a lot. So just 3 sessions is amazing. And then I'm sure they can come back if they need more follow-up, correct? Always, because, a year later, they'll come back again. Okay. I'll get the referral, because they're in a very different place than they were a year later, a year before. So exactly. So how would a potential client who is a caregiver reach you? So what they can do is they can go on Still Me's website, and it's www.stilmee.org. There we have 5 coaches, so you can read everybody's bio, and so you can reach Beverly Moore, the owner, through the website, or you can just call Beverly directly. And again, it doesn't matter where people live, because I pull in people from all of the states all the time. I have a daughter right now that I'm working with that lives in LA. Perfect. So, because caregivers are in other states, that's just the way it is. So Beverly can be reached at 617-233-1145. And I will send that to you, though, so you have it. Perfect. And I'll make sure that's up on the board. So thank you so much for joining me, Leanne. I'm sure you're going to just help a lot of families and give them a lot of stress relief. And I learned a bit here, too. So thank you. And always give them the right. And that helpline number, again, it's even if you need it just to vent to that person, use it. Wow. So I really want people to hear that, because I didn't know that until I really started training with them, that they really push that. And I listened to the calls when I was being trained, and they strongly encourage, call back. So if you just want to vent, and you don't even have a question, call them. That is great. Yeah, because I kind of had a little emotional moment maybe a month ago with his barber, who he won't go to anymore because he feels that he should be able to shave himself. But the barber was trying to be helpful, but he was kind of like, well, you can let him do this. You need to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I literally had it, because I was like, I'm done with people telling me what I need to do. And then I told my boyfriend, I'm like, the next person who tells me what I need to do, I'm going to ask them if they're going to come over and help for free. Right. And it is frustrating, because I do see people judging, other family members, and, I noticed that caregivers can do 1,000 things right, but then when they do one thing wrong, they're beating themselves up. And it's, so I think that, support groups are huge. I have an in-person one here in Mass, but I don't know how many people that will help. But they're really good, because other caregivers are very creative, and you will learn a lot from other people. Okay. But there's also you can there are groups on Facebook you can join. So you don't have to talk. You can just post your question, and I'll send you all this information. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Leanne, for joining us. All right. Thank you, Sunita.